What's going on, ladies and gents? It is Friday. Weekend should be coming up shortly for a few of you guys who don't work on the weekends like we do. So congratulations. Enjoy time with friends, family, booze, or whatever it is you like to do on the weekends. Hope it is fantastic. We got some NBA DFS to break down tonight. Question for you, Matt. Is there any possibility Jason Garrett still has a job?
Nah, I saw your tweet last night. That was funny. There's just no way. He was already gone for last night, and now it's kind of just spiraling out of control. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a sad situation there. They're much better than how they're playing.
Right? It's not like you're the New York Knicks and you have no talent and get rolled by 50 points by everybody. There's so much talent there. They should be better than that. It's just not, it's unacceptable.
It's funny. That's, what you're thinking about first thing. You got the football side of you. Me, I'm over here just smiling ear to ear that Tommy Pham is in the news this morning.
Of course, your favorite MLB DFS player to talk about, guys. So, before we get into the DK plays of the day, guys, Overlay Fantasy Sports, check it out. We hit up our football picks earlier this week. That video is already out there. We'll bring out our final thoughts video soon, and we'll get into our NBA plays later. Having a great time playing. Not good on my half last night, so let's get back up into that top 10% today. Get 9 times our buy-in, and I want everybody to make their picks on that video and tell us who you're looking at. The sweat is real, unless you're as bad as I was yesterday. Then there's no real sweat because you're out of it early.
That's what I was going to say. The sweat is real, except if you're me, because I was so bad. So,
yeah, yesterday was not a good day on Overlay. I missed a bunch of guys by when you're below 500, the sweat isn't quite as good. So I feel like in basketball, you're always right up there, except for yesterday.
Yeah, same. And I will say, you talked about the Cowboys opening the show and saying they're not the Knicks. Man, it seems like the Knicks need to do something too, because they don't have a lot of talent, but it is embarrassing right now what's going on there.
Yes, the Knicks have a lot that they need to do. So much so I wouldn't even know where to get started. There's just too much. It's just kind of overwhelming at this point. Almost makes me want to take a nap.
It's overwhelming to think about.
It's so bad. Sorry, Knicks fans, but you've been going through it for so long. I imagine at this point you don't even really care. All right, guys. Link to sign up for Drafters is below overlaydfs.com. Check it out. We will get into our show later about them and talk it through. So we got a great basketball game tonight. Clippers, one of the best teams in the game. Obviously, one of the top 2 teams over in the West. Travel out to Wisconsin today to take on my Milwaukee Bucks. And there's a few pieces from this game that I'm interested in. I want to get your thoughts on this. What do you think happens in this game? Do you think it's competitive? What do you think? What's your overall look on this one?
Definitely a competitive game. I mean, nothing's for certain. We talked about this last night with the Houston and Toronto game, and that game almost got out of hand for a minute. But Toronto fought back. It was a really good game. I expect this game to be really good. 2 really good teams. Milwaukee's at home. They already beat the Clippers, obviously without Kawhi this year. 2 of the top 5 teams in the league, so I expect a very good game.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of the top 3, arguably, right? I mean,
yeah.
If you had to do your power rankings right now, it would be Milwaukee and the 2 LA teams if you were asking me. So I think this is a good game. Clippers don't play again until I believe they're not playing tomorrow, and they got a pretty cupcake game with Washington after that. So I'm just gonna go out on a limb and assume that the Clippers are going to be at a full strength tonight, and you're gonna have Paul George, Lou Williams, Kawhi. They're all out there. The Bucks are at full strength as well. So these are 2 of the beasts of the NBA. I'm looking forward to watching this game, and it's going to be a good one. Now, I'm looking at Paul George of the Clippers. I've enjoyed his last 2 games more. Now he's lost some run courtesy of the blowout. But this is a pace-up spot for the Clippers. They do tend to leave open 3-point shooters in Milwaukee. The Coach Bud kind of defensive philosophy is to guard the paint, and then sometimes shooters get open. And if I'm the Bucks, if there's any chance that they're selling out to stop Kawhi or Paul George, my gut feeling would tell me it's Kawhi Leonard. Why? Because Kawhi Leonard did them dirty last year. Not single-handedly, but almost on his, broad shoulders. Brought the Raptors back from down 2-0 and really ripped the hearts out of my Bucks. So I think if anything, their defensive philosophy is going to be to load up on Kawhi. Not that they're going to ignore Paul George. They know how great Paul George is. But I do think he's going to get enough open 3-pointers tonight, grab you a couple of steals, a nice pace-up spot for him. I think his minutes are more solidified tonight than we would see in a normal spot. And if you tell me I'm going to get 30-plus minutes of Paul George in a pace-up spot, I am very interested in it.
The hardest part about I was thinking about this last night. The hardest part about Paul George and Kawhi to me is that they're so damn similar, right? Like it's so hard to know on any given day which one is going to be the, focal point of the offense, which one the defense is going to hone in on, et cetera, et cetera. I'm with you though. If I had to take a stab at it, I would think Milwaukee would be a tad more focused on Kawhi. Not that it's, big either way, But George is also $600 cheaper. I agree with what you said. There's a bunch of pieces in this game that are in play, Kawhi being one of them. I was also looking at Paul George, hard this morning. His price tag under 8K. This is a great spot, pace up spot for the Clippers. I expect this to be a game, rock and roll.
Yeah, I expect defenses to come to play tonight as well. So if you're thinking about loading up on this game, I do not expect, an offensive explosion, so to speak. But I do think that the Clippers guys, there's a good number of them that are at least worthy of your attention. I think Paul George is my favorite. But if you like Kawhi or Lou Williams or something like that, I can completely get on board. I think the most important thing is you see the stars definitely get their full allotments of minutes tonight. And if you tell me I can get 36 minutes of Paul George, I'm really interested in this one.
Yeah, we'll talk about this game more on members only because we haven't seen Giannis play a full game in what seems like years.
Right. The Bucks' schedule's been pretty easy, so they haven't had to always have him out there. This is not an easy game. This Clippers team can ball.
For sure.
All right, so Steven Adams has taken a break from starring in Aquaman to make your love list today, and tell us why.
So this is a guy we were looking at last slate. I was looking at Harder Than You, had kind of watched his games recently, and he's really been picking it up. So this isn't a situation where I'm using Adams because of the spot against Minnesota. They're not Brooklyn, they're not Washington, but they're a fine spot. We just saw Dwight Powell go off against them from the inside. And I just like how Adams is playing right now. As you mentioned in the second bullet point, 34 plus and 5 to 6. He's doing it, all ways. A ton of rebounds. He's blocking some shots. He's getting some steals. Another game that I expect to be really close. Adams has really taken to his role as a leader of this team. He's playing good minutes. Cog in the machine type here. I don't view him as a must or a lock or anything like that. And he's not, if you don't play him, he's not going to be the reason that you don't win. I just like him as a filler piece at 6,300. GPP value in 5 to 6. I like him here.
This is also a game that's supposed to be close. Doesn't mean it is close. Again, we hit on this for a long time yesterday. 3-point shots can make any game more lopsided than you would expect. Heck, the Washington Wizards were kind of semi-rolling on the 76ers yesterday because Bertans hit, I think, 142 three-pointers in the second quarter. And that can be the ultimate equalizer in a game like this. However, you can only go into a game with a theory, and this game projects to be close, and I would have a tendency to agree with it. I like starter players in games where I expect it to be competitive. Minnesota's an uptick in pace for Steven Adams. When your main stat that gets you your points is rebounds, give me a game where there's going to be more rebounds. So, again, very solid type of play that you really – not a guy you could expect to be the reason you lose your lineup tonight.
Exactly. Very well said.
Also – he got off to a slow start this year, but even though he's on the same team, it's a brand new team. I thought it might take him a little while to kind of get acclimated with his new teammates. Nothing about the Thunder is the same as last year.
Nothing. Every single one of their starters besides Adams is new, so I couldn't agree more there.
So, all right, next up, I want to talk about some low-hanging fruit. So I was looking into Ish Smith this morning. More importantly, I was looking into Isaiah Thomas, and everything that I read, expect him to be out again tonight, which means expect Ish Smith to be big-time chalk, like big time chalk today. Lots of people used him last night. He was excellent, which goes to my first bullet point. So I had to go to my kid's school concert. It was not entertaining. In fact, it was so funny to actually, I went to use the bathroom, and I heard another kid as I'm in the hallway go, I told my parents not to waste their time coming to this because it's going to be awful. And I just started laughing thinking about that. But what that was real life not allowing me to catch up on late-breaking information like this. I felt super fortunate to pass the cash line last night because I didn't have Ish Smith. He went off. What did he end up going, like 10x?
Yeah, like a little over 10x, I think. No, you're right, 10x. He had 33 at 3,600.
Right? So super fortunate and lucky just to still, wind up in the cash line. Thank you, Lonzo Ball. But that's why you got to know your real-life schedule when you set your lineups. This one is a perfect example of that because we didn't know about Isaiah Thomas till like right around lock time. So that's kind of a side tangent, but that's why real life needs to affect. You talked about that last night, that your wife and her friend wanted to get you to go out to dinner, and you feel like it really ruined some of your lineups because you couldn't focus on them.
It really did, man. It was a half hour before lock. They knew I was busy, but they were like waiting for me to go. I felt the pressure on them waiting for me to go. It was taking me a while. The more pressure that was, the longer it was taking me. So you're 100% right, and that's the hard part about NBA DFS because this one happened right before lock, but plenty of times they happen after lock. And if you're making a lot of lines or playing for bigger money, you have to be able to check that stuff.
Right? Like just know your real life schedule, which is part of the reason I wanted to talk about Ish today. Assuming Thomas is out, this is going to be an early game. We should know this. We'll probably find out earlier in the day. But know your real life schedule. This is almost half the reason I wanted to talk about Ish today. Because again, like you said, it's one thing if you're playing for $20 and it's not the end of the world. But if you're playing for real money, but you got kids, wife, girlfriend, whatever it might be, and there's something in your real life that's going to affect that, make sure you can be cognizant of that and don't play for bigger money that day because you don't want to miss something like this. And it's always happening in the NBA. Now, back to Ish Smith. I don't care that it's not the perfect matchup or anything like that, or I kind of expect Washington to get rolled today. Eat the chalk right here. He's so good and aggressive when he is in there. If you're getting 25-plus minutes of Ish Smith, just ride the chalk right here in any kind of lineup and just be different with your other 7 spots if you're trying to be contrarian.
Yeah, this game is interesting because I obviously do think Washington gets rolled, but Miami's in a great spot, who we're about to talk about next.
Your boy Duncan.
Yeah, so again, 5 pieces for Miami were, I was looking at this morning. Everyone on Miami's in play. We know how bad Washington is, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, the Butlers, the Bams of the world are wildly in play. Was thinking about bringing one of those 2 up, but I thought that was too easy. So I wanted to bring up a guy that was a little bit under the radar, who's actually playing really well right now. So first off, no Dragic, which definitely helps him here. Not massive for him because he's not a distributor, a guy like that. He's more of a guy that shoots and scores. Also potentially no Winslow here. So Miami was already lacking bodies. That's not going to change tonight. Again, this spot just screams upside for Miami. Robinson's been 20-plus in every game recently. He's still priced very affordably at 4,600. This is a great spot for him, regardless of the game flow, and that's why I like him. So if this game is close, he's going to see his normal run. If this game gets out of hand, he's probably going to see extra run and have higher usage because they'll give guys like Butler and Bam rests. 4,600, I want Miami exposure here. What's your take?
So it's kind of the dilemma I'm in right here is how much I love to pick on Washington. My boy Tobias Harris was great yesterday. Simmons and Embiid were both just fine. But, Philadelphia played awful last night. And yet still all those pieces, because we recommended Harris, Embiid, and Simmons in the cash lineup, playing terribly. They still all got to cash value or better. Harris was phenomenal. That's how much we like to pick on Washington. However, I am really concerned about Washington getting ruled right here. We know they're undermanned. Everybody had to play big minutes last night. Assuming Thomas is out today as well, I kind of think that this is just a really bad spot for the Wizards, which gives me a little cause for pause on both Bam and Jimmy Butler, which are players that I love, and I love using both of them for DFS, and I love picking on Washington. So it's that thought in the back of my mind all day. How uncompetitive do I think this game is going to be? Do I think it's close enough that Butler plays 32 minutes? Well, if so, I like him. Same thing goes with Bam. I'm kind of on that precipice. That's where a guy like Robinson, as you alluded to, he should see his minutes no matter what, especially knowing that Dragic is out, and that's another backcourt guy that could, isn't going to be taking any time away from him. I like him even more if Winslow's out because it's just one other body you don't have to worry about. But he should see his minutes no matter what, which make him a little bit safer than the bigger money players that we still like, but you're a little worried about their time on the court.
Very worried about that. And what's tripping me up even more is Miami got rolled in Boston. They played that overtime game in Toronto 3 days ago. Then they played in Boston the next day, where they played a good first half, but they ended up losing that game by 20. Butler had another great game.
Classic back-to-back, right?
He played until it was definitely a classic back-to-back that you always talk about. Butler played. He didn't come out until a minute left in the fourth quarter, which is bizarre. Off a back-to-back, they were down 20 points. That doesn't mean anything today, but it's just tripping me out looking at this Miami team.
Yeah, definitely. That's where a guy like Robinson, at least expect him to get his full allotment minutes. You could look at some of the other younger players on the team and things like that. I just have a really bad feeling Miami could almost make this one like a Knicks-Denver game from last night, where guys aren't even touching the court in the fourth quarter because the point discrepancy is so major.
Those games don't happen all the time, and it's hard to predict those, but I agree with you.
This one has all the signs. Washington could win for all we know. We're just saying it has really bad signs for the Wizards tonight.
For sure.
So, all right, guys, that's what we got for today. Members-only video available for paying customers. You know how to get there, guys. It's all done through the website, overlaydfs.com. Show sponsored. Check them out. And the link to sign up for drafters is below. Want to play us in some drafts and go on video? Just give us a holler.
Thanks, guys.